Okay, what about supplements that strictly do help with sleep,
Yeah.
either duration or quality?
So I'm very staunch in the way I think about supplementation. So number one, and by the way, I'm glad you asked this question because people ask it all the time. So there's categories of supplements that I want to talk about first. So generally speaking, when you think about supplementation, the way I think about it is we're supplementing for our diet. Like that's the whole concept of supplementation is I'm not getting it in my diet, therefore I must supplement with these capsules. And so generally speaking, supplementation should be vitamins and minerals that you're not getting in your daily eating, right? So first of all, do blood work. This is very simple. Go see where your deficiencies are. Jess, I got to be honest with you. I would say 25% of my patients, I get them to do blood work. As soon as we figure out what the deficiencies are, we fix those deficiencies easily 25% of the time. I never have to see them again because it was the deficiency that was causing the sleep problem. What are the areas that you want a blood test for? Simple. Vitamin D, because that's a circadian pacemaker. Iron, this has a lot to do with restless leg syndrome and oxygen transport. Magnesium, that's another big one that helps with people, specifically magnesium deficient people have a difficult time sleeping. And then melatonin is probably the third one, or the fourth one rather. Now, melatonin is a little bit more difficult to measure, but it's not an impossibility to measure. But I want to double tap on melatonin specifically for half a second, just to give people kind of an understanding of what it is. So a lot of people don't know this, Jess, but melatonin's a hormone. Like there's a reason you don't go to the CVS and buy testosterone and estrogen off the shelf, right? Because hormones affect every single system across the body, right? But somehow or another, melatonin snuck in under the FDA's guidelines, I think back in the 70s. And now you can buy melatonin anywhere. But here's what's weird. If you go outside the United States, it's by prescription only, right? Like this is a drug by prescription. And by the way, in Germany, at higher dosages, it's used as a contraceptive. Yes, you heard that clearly. It's used as birth control at high dosages. So, number one, melatonin is not, I repeat, not good for children. So many people out there are like, oh, my pediatrician said I can give my child melatonin. Kids make 4 times the amount of melatonin that they need. So giving them melatonin does them absolutely no extra good. That's number one. Number two, you just taught your kid they need a pill to sleep. I think that's a problem. I don't think that's a great idea. So I don't recommend it. Also, because it's a contraceptive, can you imagine? I don't think there's a good reason to enter a contraceptive in a young female developing body unless there's a real necessary reason to do so. So anybody that I talk about melatonin, 18 or over, number one. Number two, as I said before, by prescription only. Let's talk about the dose. It's almost impossible to find the correct dose out there. So the correct dose is somewhere between 0.5 and 1.5 milligrams. Dude, every place I go, it's 3 milligrams, 5 milligrams, 10 milligram gummies. And then I talk to people and they say, oh, I'm taking 2 10 milligram gummies. And I'm like, oh my God, you're taking literally 10 times the recommended dose. And in some cases, 20 times the recommended dose. This is a terrible, terrible idea. By the way, you know you're overdosing on melatonin if you have really vivid dreams. That's one of the first signs or symptoms of too much melatonin. And by the way, it doesn't help you. Now, a lot of people wonder, well, if I take melatonin for a long period of time, will my body stop making it? Kind of like what happens with testosterone. Good news here is no, there have been at least 2 studies to show that your body will continue to make it. So you're not doing any long-term harm. But here's the kicker. Melatonin interacts with 4 different drug classes, and nobody talks about it. Interacts with every single antidepressant on the marketplace. So any antidepressant, any SSRI, any tricyclic antidepressant, anyone it affects, diabetes medication, blood pressure medication, and birth control. I mean, come on, like if people don't understand all of these issues with melatonin, they just start popping these things, it's generally speaking not a good idea. So here's what I do. Do the blood work, fix the deficiencies. Let's say, Michael, I got no deficiencies, but I'm still not sleeping. Okay, now I would go symptom by symptom, and then I might recommend different herbal preparations. Here's the biggest problem that I see with most of the things out there. They're all what I call kitchen sink. So they throw every single thing into it. There's, skullcap and lemon balm and passion flower and ashwagandha and valerian root and all these different things. You never know what's working, number one. But number two, most of these are what I call fairy dust. So here's what they do is they put just enough in so that they can put it on the ingredient profile, but it's not usually enough to be effective. So what I usually recommend to people is single ingredient dosage formulations, right? So if you've got a problem falling asleep, valerian root, along with a little bit of hops, has been shown easily to be the best thing out there for you to try. By the way, it smells like dirty socks, so you don't want to, you want to take the capsule. Like, don't make the tea. The tea is awful. But those are the different things that people want to think about. Glycine is another good one for people to take. We know that glycine really helps with temperature regulation. So if you have thermoregulatory issues, glycine could be something that you look at. So you really want to go symptom specific with your supplementation, but again, only after doing blood work.
All right, I want to come back to melatonin and really spend some good time here.
Mm-hmm.
To be clear, is there ever a case for a healthy adult that you would prescribe that for them to help with sleep?
Yeah, absolutely. So jet lag would be a perfect example of something like that. Shift work, absolutely. Also, by the way, people get melatonin deficiencies as they get older. So I'm 58 years old. Right around in the early 50s is where we start to see melatonin dropping off for some people. Again, it's somewhat difficult to measure melatonin because here's the problem. If you do blood work during the day, there's not supposed to be any melatonin in your system during the day, right? So you have to actually take salivary samples, and you have to take one in the morning, one at night, one the next morning, one at night. So the testing can be a little bit difficult, but I would argue it's probably not the worst idea for somebody that's 60 years old. If they're having a difficult time falling asleep and staying asleep, I might try a 0.5 milligram to 1 milligram of melatonin with them just to see. And if they report to me, hey, this is working and very helpful, then they may not have to go through the whole testing of it all. But I think those are the three situations where it would make the most sense. Believe it or not, there's even some data for people with ADD and ADHD where melatonin could be helpful. Oh, you know what? I forgot one other instance, Jess, I want to double tap on, which is there is a group of children where melatonin makes sense, and that's children on the autism spectrum. We don't know why, but larger dosages like 5 to 7 milligrams work really well with those individuals.
All right, while we're in supplements, I think it's a good time to bring in your banana tea.
Sure.
Talk about how somebody goes about making that, what it is, and what it benefits.
So one of the biggest problems with any supplement is absorption rate, right? And a lot of times our bodies, just because we take the pill doesn't mean that it actually makes it into the system. So one of my favorite ways to get magnesium is banana tea. So a lot of people don't know this, but bananas are loaded with magnesium. We used to call them nature's sleeping pills, believe it or not. But the funny part is there's 3 times the amount of magnesium in the peel, not in the fruit itself. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to eat the peel. So what I do is I have people go to the store and buy an organic banana, cut off the tip and the stem, cut it in half, leave the peel on and the fruit inside. So basically you just wash off the outside to get any dirt off of it. But all I've asked you to do is take an unpeeled banana and basically chop it in half. Drop the 2 halves into some boiling water, maybe 2 cups, and boil it for about 3 or 4 minutes or until the banana turns brown. And then you drink the water. It's loaded with these things called phytosteroids, and that's what helps with the absorption of the natural magnesium that's in the peel. By the way, it's delicious. Like, if you like bananas, it's really, my daughter, when she was younger, she used to say, Dad, it's very banana-y. Meaning it tasted very banana-ish. So you've got to like bananas for sure. You can add a itty bitty tip of natural honey, like raw honey to it, or some cinnamon can actually be helpful. But be thoughtful. Don't have too much honey in it at night, because if you spike your blood sugar, you can cause yourself a bigger problem later on.
For somebody who's going to supplement with magnesium, say they don't have a banana and they're going to go for the supplement route directly in, what type do you recommend?
Yep.
And what dosage?
So,
and what time? How far before bedtime?
All good questions. So here's the crazy part. There's 13 different types of magnesium, which is really annoying for all of us out there when we're kind of going into the supplement aisle or going to the health food store and trying to figure out what we want. So the data is pretty interesting. I have most people start with magnesium glycinate. Why? It's easy on the stomach, and it includes glycine, which again has that temperature regulation portion to it, so that can be helpful. You need to be thoughtful because you have to eat your magnesium. Your body does not produce it. However, you could eat a bushel of kale and still not get enough magnesium because the soil has been so over-tilled that we're not getting magnesium coming up through the root stalks. So in many cases, even if you eat a bushel of kale a day, you still need magnesium supplementation. I would argue that most people are probably good in the 150 to 200 milligram range to start. You need to be careful with your magnesium. Too much magnesium will absolutely give you diarrhea, and that will disrupt your sleep dramatically. So don't go hog wild on the magnesium, okay? Start low and slow is how I tell most people. Now, from a brand perspective, here's what I'll tell you. There's only one brand that I personally know a lot about, and the reason I know a lot about them is because I actually did a clinical trial on this brand. So I'll tell you the story. It's kind of funny. So I was giving a lecture and this gentleman stood up and said, "Hey, I make the greatest magnesium ever. I want you to learn about it, try it, all this stuff." So afterwards I came up to him and I said, "Hey, you want to put your money where your mouth is? Give me a check for $75,000. Let's run a double blind placebo controlled study. Let's see how good your damn magnesium is." He was right. He gave me the check and it was unbelievable how well his magnesium worked. It's called Upgraded Formulas Magnesium. But it's a weird kind. Believe it or not, it's a magnesium chloride, which is not something that you would imagine would be good. But he's a fluid dynamics engineer. So his big thing was all about absorption and understanding molecule size and things like that. So this is the magnesium that I take. Many people prefer their magnesium in the evening time. So for example, if you're taking that Calm powder that you see advertised all over the place, which is, I think, magnesium glycinate, you'd want to take that in the evening time. I personally take my magnesium. I take one pill in the morning, and then if I sweat a lot, then I may take a second one at night. By the way, that's a big factor. If you work out every day and you're a heavy sweater, you will sweat your magnesium right out of your system. And so there are times where you may need to take a second dose. Most of my patients prefer their magnesium at night. For me, I can't remember to take my supplements unless I take them all at the same time in the morning time. So that's when I take my magnesium. But for folks out there who always ask me, like, what's your supplement stack? I'll tell you right now, it's pretty straightforward. I take vitamin D, I take omega-3s, and I take magnesium. That's pretty much it. I do creatine in the morning with a little bit of minerals in my water. So I create my own mineral water, and that's my whole Substack. That's it.
How do you feel about food sources of melatonin?
So
I've heard pistachios are a good source.
pistachios, tart
And
cherries.
where I'm thinking this could be applicable is an after dinner snack. Still not right before bed because that's
Yep.
going to have a negative effect on sleep, but somebody having some of those foods leading up to sleep.
Absolutely, you can definitely do it, but you got to be thoughtful. If you dump a big mound of protein into your system right before bed, which pistachios are, you want to be thoughtful because then your body is going to increase core body temperature because it's trying to, metabolize through those. Honestly, I'd rather you drink a glass of water if you're hungry, because a lot of times people are more thirsty than they are hungry and they don't realize it. But the less food before bedtime, the better. What I tell people is what I call my 3-2-1 rule, which is 3 hours before lights out, you stop all food and fluid. 2 hours before lights out, you stop all work. And 1 hour before lights out, you stop all screens if you can.
Since you made it to the end of this clip, I know you're going to love the full episode. Click here to watch. I'll see you over there.
What do I do when I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't go back to bed? By the way, is kind of the number one problem that people ask me about. This is exactly the protocol that I use with my patients. So every human on